What's up, guys? Jeff Cavalier, ATHLEAN-X.com. So I wanted to kind of break away from the mainstream content on this channel to provide a unique perspective as it relates to the Damar Hamlin injury that happened in Monday Night Football. So for those that aren't aware, I was a physical therapist for the New York Mets in 2006, 7, and 8. And I was part of the sports medicine team that had to be equipped for injuries in games. You know, they're part of sports. However, nothing can really prepare you for what we saw last night. As a matter of fact, it really hadn't happened before in an NFL game, so I don't think any of us were truly prepared. However, it was one of those games that many people were watching. They were watching because of the magnitude of the game and the importance it played in terms of the season itself. People who engaged in fantasy football, it was a major championship week. There were a lot of people watching that game, and for this to play out on that national stage was horrifying. I could tell you that the second the play happened and he went down, I felt like I knew what had happened. My baseball background had forced me to be aware of this type of injury, this blunt force to the chest that can throw you into an arrhythmia and cause your heart to stop. I'll get into that in a few minutes. I actually have my own close experience with something like that. But I have to just say a few things. When that occurred, the response of the medical staff and personnel that came to assist that young man, they saved his life. The response, the ability, the preparedness that they had to be able to do this, again, for a situation that never really happens. I mean, if you think about it, in an NFL game, there's on average 50 to 60 tackles per team per game. So you're looking at 100 to 120 tackles per game. That's like 21,000 tackles over the course of a season. And this has not happened. And it's almost shocking when you think about it because it's a violent game. And people hit each other with such force. And they hit each other in the chest, you know, whether it be shoulder pads or sometimes a helmet. It's just the timing. The timing of this injury is really what's most important. It's the precise, horrible timing of getting that trauma at the exact time that the heart is trying to repolarize those ventricles that causes this to completely short circuit. One of my favorite YouTubers I mentioned in my list, Dr. Brian Suter, actually showcased exactly the timing and the T-wave and why and where this happens. You should check that video out if you haven't. But what I wanted to focus on was the response of the teams. Because again, as a sports medicine professional, I can tell you that it was life-saving and it was impressive. So when they arrive at the player down on the field, the first thing you have to be conscientious of in a football-related injury a lot of times is head and neck. And I think this year especially there's a sensitivity to head and neck injuries and issues because of the things that played out in other big games on a national stage with Tua and other players that have undergone serious head injuries. So when they arrive on the scene, they have to sort of imagine, is this something related to the head and neck? Meanwhile, you've got a player who is not breathing, who doesn't have a heartbeat. He's going to need CPR. He's got shoulder pads on, right? It's not very accessible to perform CPR with the shoulder pads on. They're going to have to get them off, moving the body, moving the head. The decisions that were made in a short period of time were so important, and they can't be overlooked. And again, the collaboration between both sides was amazing also. I know that when I was in baseball, we would never just make all of our medical decisions ourselves. If a player went down with an injury, our athletic training staff would be in the back assisting the player, and of course we would get the assistance of the other team's medical doctors. I mean, it's no longer Mets versus Dodgers. It's no longer Bengals versus Bills. It doesn't matter. It's helping that person as human beings, helping that person and collaborating with your best medical professionals regardless of what uniform they wear. And that was on full display last night. If it wasn't the decisions that they made, Damar would not be alive today, period. He would not be alive if they didn't make those decisions. And I pray that continues to be the case, that he makes this full recovery. I also think about when I watch something like that, how terrified His mother must be. You know, I have 2 young kids, and they express interest in doing what Daddy did and playing sports and all that. And I used to think it was such a great thing. You know, I was like, oh, that'd be great if one day they did this. And I hope they never do. You know, because I get worried about these types of things. Knowing that they can happen, I get worried about them. And I think, you know, I couldn't even imagine what it would be like. And I know as a mother, watching my wife and how she deals with our kids, it's like the most terrifying thing in the whole world, anything ever happening to your child, let alone you being there in attendance to watch what happened and to be able to go there and be with him, I'm sure with some level of comfort in an exasperatingly horrible situation. But she was at least able to be with him and go to the hospital with him. But the whole thing just like gave me nightmares on so many levels. As I said, in baseball, this is an injury that we are prepared for, or at least aware of. Again, hoping that it never ever happens. But when you've got projectiles moving around in the air like baseballs, that can make contact with a player in the chest, sometimes in the face. We've seen that too. You have to be aware of this so that you can be prepared to do what these guys did last night to save a life. Other sports too. Hockey, this has happened in hockey with a puck. Lacrosse, right? Anytime that ball is moving around, it can, again, it's a timing issue. If the timing is bad, it can mean disastrous outcomes. So I related a personal experience. It was 2007, my second year with the Mets. We were out in San Diego, and I was out in the outfield down the right field line with Carlos Beltran, one of our great players. And Beltran had some knee inflammation and was testing it out to see whether or not he'd be playing in that series. So, of course, I was out there with him, running some drills before the game, just trying to assess whether or not he was going to be able to play. And so I had him running some 10, 15-yard S runs, and again, just trying to get his feedback. So, of course, I'm evaluating him. I'm facing home plate. I got my hands on my knees. I'm bent over just a little bit lower so I can kind of see the takeoff mechanics and just how things look. And on the very last run, I said, all right, last one, you ready? Go. He ran, and of course I stand up, and within an instant of him clearing my view, I got hit right in the chest with a baseball. Completely knocked the wind out of me. I couldn't breathe. And the very first thing I remember thinking was like, I'm going to die. Because I felt that this is what happened to me, because I couldn't breathe. And of course it could be that I just lost my wind, but in that instant, I was terrified that why can't I breathe? Has my heart stopped? Am I about ready to pass out? I was able to gather myself quickly. I was thoroughly embarrassed at that point. Like, I'm thinking to myself that this is great. You know, I'm down here trying to do a job and I'm getting hit by baseballs in spring training. Now, they're no doubt flying all over the place, but terrifying. And when I was able to catch my breath and realize that I was gonna be okay, and I was standing, a lot of players came over to see how I was doing. I was like, no, I'm good. Again, thoroughly embarrassed, kind of walked in from batting practice and then said a few prayers in the locker room that I couldn't believe that that what had just happened. I don't know what was going through Damar's head in that instant when he got up off of the ground and then collapsed, but I could almost relate to the fear he probably had in his head of what is going on with me right now. I just made a tackle and something is not right, and what is going on with me? And, you know, again, mine was nothing, and I bounced back, and, you know, he's still in critical condition. And it's just a horrible, horrible thing. So anyway, I thought I'd just give a little bit of my perspective, and also, most importantly, the kudos to the people who were there as the first responders, the medical staff, my brethren who I feel proud to be part of that, and having served in that capacity, I feel proud of what they did. And again, at least up till now, they saved his life, and I hope that there's nothing but a full recovery to come from here, and that he's able to do whatever he wants to do, whether he wants to participate in this game again or not, whether he wants to go on and become a vocal spokesman for what could happen, the dangers of this violent sport. I'm sure there will be a platform for him forever. But it's just one of those nights, like I said, I was eagerly anticipating the game myself. Couldn't wait to watch it. And it just so quickly turned and became such a nightmare on many, many levels. And I'm sure all you guys who watched it can agree. My thoughts and prayers go out to Damar and his family, his mother. Again, I'm thinking of her, but it's his entire family, the Buffalo Bills, the Bengals, anybody that had to witness that. We're just all praying for a full and healthy return and recovery.